Hey guys, I'm Kappes. I'm your realtor guy with the bow tie. And with the market being as crazy it is, you have probably talked to at least one person who has been trying to buy a home and has been getting into multiple offers every chance they turn around and they don't know what to do. Today, I'm going to give you the keys to the castle and tell you how you can maximize your chances to win in a multiple offer. So like I was saying, in today's market, we are running into multiple offers like crazy. As a buyer agent, I can tell you I have one client who we've written on probably 5 different houses, and each time we've been in competition with probably no less than 5 to 10 people. That is a very difficult environment to win an offer in. So as I sat down with them and we tried to put together a game plan like I do with all my buyers, we've got to go into this with a plan. We can't just wing it and shoot from the hip and pray that it hits something. I sat down and said, okay, let's talk about the individual things of your offer that we can make changes to that are going to help you win. Now, one of the first things that we can do is if the house is in great condition and we're not really worried about the inspection coming up with anything, we know the financing's locked in, one of the things we can do is actually do a non-refundable earnest money deposit. So you're going to put earnest money down anyways, because that's where the seller knows that if this guy breaches the contract, I at least have some money I can go back on. Well, if you make it flat out non-refundable, meaning if you leave the inspection or you leave because of the appraisal or whatever, the seller has now confidence that, hey, I'm going to get compensation for my time that I lost. Now, people freak out like, oh my gosh, I don't want to give that kind of money away. Well, you're not. That money is going to go towards your down payment at the end of the day. And if we don't foresee any issues with the financing or with the house and the inspection, it just is kind of more of a guarantee that we know we're going to have that money towards the down payment. The seller now has a guarantee that they're not going to be left holding the bag. Okay. Another thing that we can do is when we get into, making strong offers, huge price, going well over and above asking, the seller's agent is a lot of the time going to have concerns about is the home actually going to appraise. So what we do is we put in a thing called appraisal gap coverage. So if a home is listed for like $300,000 and then the appraisal comes in and it's like $275,000, well, the bank is only going to want to lend, $275,000 on it, but the seller still may want to be as close to $300,000 as possible. So what we can do is offer some kind of financial gap coverage where the buyer will bring an extra 10 or 15 or 20,000, 5,000, whatever it is to the table so that the seller knows regardless of what the appraisal is, they're going to have a backup option to keep the financing moving forward and not have to drop the price all the way down. Now, the one thing that people always look for is you've got to make a strong offer price. So if the home's listed for $275,000, offering $300,000, provided that it's going to appraise or you have some coverage, that is definitely going to help you out. Now, does that mean you should offer over asking price on every single house? No way. There are a lot of houses that are overpriced right now, and there are people who just want to buy a house and they don't care what the price is. I don't believe that's a smart option for a buyer. You have to buy the right house for you, but at the right possible terms as well, okay? So, looking at the strong offer from a price standpoint, we also have to get into strong financing. So if you're in a position where you've got, $50,000 or $100,000 sitting in the bank, and not everyone does, of course, but if you do, you may want to look at, do I want to put down more than 20%? Do I want to put down more than 10%? Do I want to, figure out a way that I'm not liquidating all my savings, but I'm still going to be in a position where I can show the seller you have less worry about this financing falling apart at the last minute, which can happen, but in this market doesn't typically happen as often. Another thing that the buyer can do is we can get into possession. So if I have a seller who's moving out of state or they're building a new house or they've got small children, well, being out on closing day may not be the easiest thing to do. They may need a couple of extra days to load the truck, get the kids to the in-laws to get babysat while we move everything physically. Giving the seller the extra little bit of time after closing, whether it's a few days or a few weeks or even a month, most lenders will actually allow you to not have to move in within 60 days in some cases. You can now give the seller a little bit of peace of mind knowing, hey, you don't have to be out tomorrow. You've got a little bit of time, especially if the seller hasn't found where they're going. This is pivotal if you have a seller who's waiting for their home to go under contract before they go write an offer on another one. Once again, we're talking about ways we can win without giving away the bank, okay? Another thing that we run into is if you are putting down a certain amount of money in a certain price point, sometimes the lender can actually generate whether or not we can get an appraisal waiver. Now, this is not something I recommend for everybody. An appraisal waiver means we don't care what it's worth, we're buying it for what we're offering to pay, which is totally fine. If this is going to be your house for forever, you don't plan on moving in the next 10 to 15 years, you're going to raise your kids all the way until they graduate high school in this house, that's probably going to be somewhere where you don't care what you pay, whether it's $5,000 less or 10 grand more, because you're looking at the long term versus the short term. And the appraisal waiver will basically take that potential hiccup out of the equation if you and the lender feel comfortable. Typically, the bank will feel comfortable because they know how much money you're putting down. They're looking at the loan to value for the neighborhood and what other sales are going through, and that will generate whether or not you can have that appraisal waiver. Sometimes buyers will actually take and do something that I don't recommend, but if you're looking at wanting to all out, hands on deck win, sometimes you can take and waive the inspection. Now, like I said, I don't recommend that. I think every house has potential flaws and it has potential issues. My job as I walk through a house is always to try and find those flaws and issues before we have an accepted contract or an inspection, because I don't want you wasting money on an inspection if we don't have to. But if we're trying to win, we can waive the inspection. We can do an inspection for just general information purposes, like a take it or leave it. I either like what I see or I don't. Or if you still have concerns that something major could pop up in that inspection, we could always put in that the inspection will only ask for repairs if there's a repair that costs more than $1,000 or $2,000 or $500, whatever you feel comfortable with, so that you know if there's something major, it can be addressed. But the seller now knows, hey, I'm not going to get nitpicked to death at the end of the day. Now, this last idea is something that some agents feel strongly about, some agents don't. I look at it as, what is the situation at hand? So if I have a seller who's a bank or a corporation or Godzilla, something like that, I don't want to use this tactic. But if I have a family and my buyer is a family, we may go ahead and go the route of, we're going to now write a personal letter to that seller. We're going to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is Jim and Jill Smith, and we've got 2 kids, and we love your house, and we can't wait to have Christmas and, play in the backyard and sled ride on snow days, because we know you and your family and your kids have loved it too. Believe it or not, that little bit of an emotional attachment when it comes to multiple offers, it could be enough for you to win out over the others, because they feel a connection to you and you're not just a piece of paper with a bunch of numbers and some signatures on it at the end of the day. So like I've said, in a multiple offer environment, there's a million different things that you can do to tweak your offer to hopefully help you win. This list that I've just given you is just some of the things that I do for my clients, but I wanted to share with you in case you are having problems in this market and are trying to figure out what can we do to win at the end of the day. Hey guys, I'm Kappes. I'm the realtor guy with the bow tie. I've dedicated my entire career to giving people great service and also at the same time making sure they're learning about what they're doing, not that they just woke up one day and decided to sell their house or buy a new home. So if you've enjoyed this material, hopefully you'll take and you'll click the subscribe button. And if you know somebody who's thinking about buying or selling who may find this information useful, please feel free to forward the link over to them or have them reach out to me directly. I'm available via text, email, DM, anytime, any day, and make sure you follow us on our social media at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and here on YouTube. I hope everyone has a great day, and tune in next week.